Friends, we're in the fourth week of our Red Letters series, and the red letters, based on a lot of the translations. If you see a red letter Bible, it means it's a Bible that highlights the words of Jesus in red, and so that's what we're talking about. The words of Jesus. We're specifically looking in the Gospel of Mark at the words of Jesus during this series, and this morning we're in Mark chapter 6, and I think this is a word that probably everybody in this room needs to hear. That's children, it's students, it's adults of all ages. Friends, we live in a world where we are overworked and we are stressed and we are anxious beyond belief, and all those things are sort of related to each other. And so I think it's important this morning that we hear a word from God about this fourth word that's up here, the one that's highlighted this morning, about the idea of rest and why that matters and where that idea comes from. So let's look this morning in Mark chapter 6. These are the words of God. I want to invite you to ask yourself, God, what are you trying to say to me this morning? Let's hear this story. Now, a little background on this. Jesus has sent his disciples, just a few verses above this, Jesus sent his disciples 2 by 2 to go to the surrounding towns and villages and preach and teach and heal people and do all these crazy, awesome ministry type things. And now they have come back to Jesus, and that's where this picks up in Mark chapter 6. It says, "The apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. Then, because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, 'Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest.' So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. By this time it was late in the day, so the disciples came to him. 'This is a remote place,' they said, 'and it's already very late. Send the people away so that they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat.' But he answered, 'You give them something to eat.'" Will you pray with me? God, we do thank you for your word that still speaks today. I'm thankful, God, that you didn't just write a book thousands of years ago and it's just some dead book that we read that doesn't really have anything to say. God, it's a word that still speaks to us. And God, I pray that that's what your Holy Spirit would do today. God, I pray that you would now either use me to speak a word or that you would speak a word in spite of me and just set me out of the way. But God, these people didn't come here to hear me talk. They came to hear a word from you. And that's what I'm relying on. That's what we're asking for as we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Have you ever noticed that kids, it's not just kids, but have you ever noticed that kids fight sleep sometimes? Or rest, even nap time. Like, I still don't understand it. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to reinstitute nap time. I'm going to propose that to our SPR, that we just give a nap time up here for the church staff. But I could do nap time. We talked about that last week. But the truth is, kids at some point, maybe because they get forced to do it early in school, they start to kind of fight naps and rest, and then it actually carries often into nighttime sleep and that kind of stuff. Now, this isn't universally true, but it's certainly true of a lot of my kids. I know when Grace was little, she fought rest. She fought sleep and naps of all kinds because she had to be in the middle of everything. Like, she just did. Like, it was that FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. She had to be in the center of it. If she was afraid that something was going to happen that she wasn't going to be a part of, it was no sleep, no nothing, and so that was really important to her. Now, of course, now she's such a wallflower and a very shy girl. It's not the case anymore, and Noah does that too. And his was a little bit different because, see, Noah, he doesn't really fight the sleep. Like, he'll actually try to go to sleep and he'll get quiet for 45 minutes. He'll get quiet for an hour. Like I'll be upstairs watching TV and he'll be, I think he's asleep, right? So I'm thinking, dude's asleep. I'm watching TV or whatever, and then I'll kind of drift off or fall asleep. Or sometimes I'll go downstairs and get in my bed, and then like a few minutes later, here comes Noah. And I'll open my eyes, and there'll be, like, Noah will be like 6 inches from my face. He'd be like, "Dad, I can't sleep. I'd be like, dude, I'm never going to sleep again, all right? You just need to, I just lost bladder control, okay? You need to go back, back up to bed. He can get really quiet for a long period of time. But never have I seen the kind of stuff that I saw this weekend when we were keeping Weston. So Weston is not quite 2 years old, and he has learned how to fake sleep. So yesterday, I came home from working out. Ginger was putting Weston down for a nap. She said he was tired. He was nice and quiet. He hears the door close, and he starts screaming, Papa, 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 right? Which is really good for my ego, but not good for the Juju who's trying to put her grandson to bed. So she kind of comes out with a nice smile on her face, and she's like, you take the kid, And so now I have him, and she wanted him, to have a little papa time, and then I got to put him to bed. So I said, okay, I'll put him down for a nap. So I got him to put his head down, and he got real quiet, and he got real still. I'm thinking, this is going to be a piece of cake. I'm going to be able to go out and just, hey, I don't know what your problem was. I put him to bed. I was going to be all bragging and stuff. So I put him, and he gets all quiet, and then we go, and then he wants to lay on the bed. So I put him on the bed. And then I put pillows on all sides of him, and I lay next to him, and I kind of drape my arm over him, and I'm thinking, you know what, I'll close my eyes, and then he'll see that I'm closing my eyes, and he's already nice and still, so he'll close his eyes, and he'll go on to sleep. So I lay down, and I put my arm over him, and I close my eyes for like 10 seconds. I say, you close your eyes, I'll close my eyes. So his eyes closed, so I close my eyes. 10 seconds, I open my eyes, dude is staring right at me. As soon as he sees me open my eyes, what does he do? He closes his eyes. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I'll cut you some slack. Maybe you just, it's only been 10 seconds, right? Maybe you just. So I said, okay, this time, okay, you close your little eyes. Close your eyes. I'm going to close that. Okay. So I close my eyes, and I'll wait. I said, I'm going to wait like 30 seconds or maybe 45 seconds, and we'll see if, because he's really still. Nobody can lay still and not eventually fall asleep. I'm thinking, okay. So I close my eyes. You close your eyes. I close my eyes, and about 45 seconds later, a minute later, open my eyes, still staring right at me. As soon as I open my eyes, he closes his eyes again. I'm like, you are a punk. So I said, okay, this time I'm going to go for like 3 minutes. He's still, really still. I'm thinking there's no way this kid can not fall asleep, right? So okay, you close your little eyes. He's like, okay. He closes his eyes, and then I close my eyes, and I open one eye, just to check on him, and his eyes were still closed for like 5 seconds. Then I closed my eyes again. I said, okay, now I'm going to stay with my eyes closed for like 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. Friends, I fell asleep for like 5 minutes, a little power nap. I woke up, still staring at me. And I just finally got up and said, you're not going to bed. Like, I know that you're not going to go to sleep. So I just picked him back up. Now, he was tired. He just didn't want to go to sleep. He fought rest. He fought sleep. And my kids have done that. My guess is some of your kids do that. Some of you may even do that. It's not just something that our kids do, friends. Sometimes we do that. Maybe you have that fear of missing out, and you're afraid that when you're sleeping or if you're resting in some way, you're going to miss out on some great thing, some great project, some great happening. Maybe you have anxiety around sleep. That's something that I've had before. Maybe some of you have had that. So maybe, for our kids, maybe it's just the fear of the dark at night. There's all different reasons why people might fight rest or fight sleep. But we all do it, I think, or often we do it. And sometimes, friends, I think it's really important for us as we look into our lives, we look around the world that we live in, and we see people we are literally working ourselves to death. We're working ourselves into illness and sickness. We are working ourselves into anxiety, into depression. We are working ourselves into all kinds. You just go ask your doctor if you should operate at 110% every day all the time. They will tell you, whether they believe in a God or not, they will tell you we are not designed to operate at 110% all the time. And so many maladies and illnesses and syndromes and all kinds of things happen because we don't take rest seriously, because we fight rest. Now, friends, this morning, I think Jesus reminds us that rest is God's idea. Rest is God's idea. It's something that started way back in the beginning, but and we'll talk about that in just a minute, but one of my favorite places to see where God reminds us about rest is right here in Mark chapter 6. And again, you heard the story. The disciples have gone off and they've been talking to, they've been going 2 by 2 and they've gone out and they've done all these cool and incredible things. And it says that they've come back and they're starting to share their stories with Jesus. You can just imagine how excited they are. They're like, Jesus, you got to see, you should have seen, I cast this demon out, or I healed this person, and you should have seen how they responded to your message. I mean, it was really cool, Jesus. I mean, you should have been there. They're wanting to tell Jesus their story. And Jesus looks at them, and look what it says here. It's important to see what it says here. It says, then, because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, right? So there were a huge crowd of people. They're all around him. Because there are so many, he says, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Friends, it's important to see here that this is not Jesus taking into consideration his own need. He's not saying to his disciples, hey guys, you've been out hard working, let's go get me some rest. That's not what he says. He looks at his disciples who have been on this journey and going from town to town and house to house and preaching the good news of the kingdom and healing and doing all these amazing things. And he sees them, and it says that the crowds, there's so many people coming and going, they haven't even had a chance to eat. And so Jesus says to them, come away with me by yourselves to a quiet place and rest. He's saying to his disciples that rest is important. I want you to come with me and let's go get some rest. This is Jesus showing concern for his closest friends. And maybe the first thing that really jumped out at me in this, that really just kind of just impacted me as I was reading through this was this realization as I read this. Jesus does not just love you because of what you can do for him. Jesus just loves you. Jesus does not love you for what you can do for him. Jesus just loves you, friends. And somebody here this morning has got to hear that. Somebody needs to hear that, because we live in a world where our work and our boss and our company and the owner, we live in a world where people will work you and get everything from you that they can. There are probably people in this room who can tell some stories about people that you're accountable to that are working you. You are convinced they don't really care about you. They just want to know, can you get done what needs to get done? Can you make our fourth quarter numbers look better than our third quarter numbers? Can you do something so that I don't have to go do that something? Friends, I think there are often times where we feel like we're being worked to death. You may have family members who you feel like they are just latched onto you because of what you can do for them, not because they love you or want to be around you, but because of what you can do for them. You may have friends that you feel like have latched onto you because what you can do for them. Friends, we live in a world where sometimes we are kind of turned into commodities and we are used to mine out of us the things that we can do, the products that we can produce. Friends, it's important that you hear this morning that is not of God. That's not how God sees you. That God does not love you for the products that you can produce. Certainly God wants you to do things, right? He wants you to go out. He wants you to spread the good news. He wants you to do the same kinds of things that he sent the disciples to go do. He wants us to do those things. But he doesn't love you just for the products that you can produce for him. He just loves you. Friends, rest is God's idea. It goes all the way back to the beginning, right? It goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2. I want you to hear what we hear in those scriptures. So, for instance, at the beginning, this is God creating. God creates everything that there is in 6 days. Instead of just having a 6-day week, he creates a 7-day week where he finishes in 6 days and takes a day of rest. Listen to what it says in Genesis chapter 2. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. By the 7th day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the 7th day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. Work was God's idea, but rest was also God's idea. And not only did God model, presumably God did not take a day off because he needed a day off. He is God, right? He doesn't, like you and I, like if I've worked, 6 24-hour days, the seventh day I'm resting because I'm collapsing. This is the God of the universe, friends. He didn't rest because he had to. He rested because he knew that he was creating us in his image, and he knew that we were wired in a way that we were going to need rest. So he modeled it for us. He didn't need it. He modeled it for us. And so he rested on the seventh day and made the seventh day holy. Now we see, not only did God model it for us, friends, in Exodus 20, God makes it part of the Ten Commandments. So it's like it's almost as if he knew that we would kind of ignore his example, and we would tend to just kind of work through it, kind of, destroy ourselves through work. And so in Exodus 20, this is what God says in the Ten Commandments. This is not a suggestion, it's a command. He says, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord, your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male, nor your female servant, nor your animals, nor your foreigner residing in your towns. So not only does God come up with the idea, not only does he model it for us, but God also commands us to rest. And so here we have Jesus saying to his closest friends, if Jesus was just trying to mine them for what he could get out of them, they would have come home from their work and he would have said, hey guys, glad to have you. Good stories and all, but our attendance is only up 10%. We need it to be up 20%. So can you guys go back out and just drum up some more business? Hey guys, I need you to go find me some more Instagram followers. I need a few more pledge cards for the pledge campaign. He could have said all those things. That's not what he said. He looks at his closest friends and he says, guys, you look tired. You guys look hungry. Come away with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Somebody needs to hear that today. There might even be some uber religious people in here that need to hear that today. Because friends, we carry guilt. There may be some preachers in here who need to hear that this morning, some church staff members who need to hear that. There may be some church leaders this morning, and just some uber religious Christian type folks who need to hear this morning that God does not just love us for what we can do for him. We carry around guilt all the time. We carry around the guilt of, am I doing enough? And I promise you, every time somebody calls me to do something on my day off, I need a day off. But I'm like, but this is ministry. Like, how do you say no to ministry? I have to do ministry, right? And if I don't do that, if I say, okay, no, I'm going to go and take a day off, then I feel guilt about it. Friends, I think we all do that to some extent. Am I doing enough is a question we ask. Or is God just constantly looking at us and saying, man, you're leaving so many opportunities on the table. I am so disappointed in the output that you have. I think we sometimes feel that. Friends, that's not God. That's not of God. Are there things that we're asked to do? Absolutely. Should we be doing them? Absolutely. But when you're working yourself to death because you can't get over the fact that somehow you think God is disappointed in you, friends, that is not God. We're called to be faithful. We're called to go where God sends us. But we're also called to live life by a rhythm of rest. 6 days of work and a day of rest. God doesn't just love us for the output. He doesn't just love me when the attendance is good here, or how many, if I got to have more baptisms this year or professions of faith this year than last year. When that doesn't happen, friends, it doesn't mean he doesn't love me. It doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. He loves us. He just loves us. Now, some of you are going to say, you know what, though, Matt, I'd love to rest, but I can't. You don't know my situation. See, you don't know what my corporation expects of me. You don't know, like, if I don't do this, if I'm not working 7 days a week, 16-hour days, my entire company is going to collapse. You don't know, Matt, how much my family depends on me working at this kind of clip. You have no, like, if I took a minute, if I took a nap, like the whole world would implode. No, you're right, I don't know. I know this. I know that the God of the universe could do everything in 6 days and still take rest. I know this, that like we'll celebrate communion in just a little bit. I know that on the last day of his freedom before he was going to go and die, I know that Jesus could take time to have a meal with his closest friends. But I don't understand your thing. Everybody's got a different thing. And some of you are saying, you don't understand. I don't know how I'm going to get from here to there. I don't know how you're going to get from here to there either. Here's what I do know. And I hope you'll write this down. The only way you're going to get from where you are working yourself to an early grave, the only way you're going to get from where you are of the stress and the anxiety and all the things that go with overwork to where God wants you to be living in a life, living actual life with a capital L, abundant life. And the only way you're going to get from here to there is to understand this basic thing. Not every good thing is a God thing. Not every good thing is a God thing. Now, friends, I want you to just for a second imagine Jesus with his friends. His disciples have come back. They're telling him these stories, and he is surrounded by a crowd of people. You cannot tell me that there were not people who didn't need healing. You can't tell me that there weren't people who needed some sort of listening ear. You can't tell me there weren't people who needed to hear the good news of the gospel. You can't tell me there weren't people who needed to be fed. You can't tell me that there weren't needs all around Jesus and his disciples that night. You know that there were. There were plenty of good things that they could have done. Jesus could, and who would have faulted them if Jesus had said, "Hey guys, look, I know that you're tired, but can you just one more time, can you just kind of do this thing? Hey, you guys, you three go over here and you two go over there. There's just too much, guys. He could have easily done that. Nobody would have faulted him for doing it, but friends, that's not what he did. Jesus saw all the good things that could be done, but in that moment, friends, the God thing for his disciples in that moment was for them to rest, because rest was God's idea. Friends, we can kill ourselves doing good things. Not every good thing is a God thing. If I gave you a piece of paper today and a pencil and just asked you to write all the things that you do, kind of the normal things that you do on a piece of paper, my guess is you could fill up, even if you use little 3 and 4 word phrases: provide for my family, do the dishes, Boy Scout leader, volleyball coach, whatever that is. If you just took 3 and 4 word phrases, you could fill up a piece of paper just writing that in relatively small, kind of size of handwriting. You could fill that up. Some of you could fill it up front and back. I think the question that this story begs us to ask is, if you were to do that exercise, if you were to write down all the good things that you're doing, and most of them would be, inarguably, they would be good things. The question this morning is, what things would God have you unleash your eraser on? What are the things that God would want you to take your eraser to so that you can create some margin in your life, so that you could be obedient to his call for rest and receptive of his love, his gift of rest? What is it that God would say, yeah, that's a good thing that you're doing, but that's not the best thing I can have you do right now. I want you to erase that so that you can get some rest, so that you can be a human being and not a human doing, right? What are the things that God would have you unleash your eraser on so that you could do the God things that only you can do? What are those things? I hope you'll do that exercise today. I hope you'll get a piece of paper and start writing those things out. It'll be better than the Super Bowl anyway. Write those things and begin to ask God, what are the things you want me to erase so that I can live my life in the rhythm that you want me to live it by? And friends, if you're struggling with doing, I can't take that off. I can't do that. No, I can't stop doing that. I invite you to hear the words of Jesus. Surrounded by crowds of people and scores of good things that he could have had his disciples do, I invite you to hear the words of Jesus as you look at your list of all the good things that you are doing or could do. Hear the words of Jesus looking at you saying, you look tired. You look hungry. Come away with me by yourself to a quiet place and get some rest.